So all education systems are designed to produce an end result within the population of a community, right? Like the school system is made to create good, whatever the culture is. And what do we deem as that? We push the math, the science, the English, not, being bilingual or anything like that. The things that we think here in America will lead to your success and what we want you to be as an American. That's why what we cover within our subject areas are what we cover. And a lot of times when it comes to cultural integration, it's deemed for a month or a week, rock your mocks or, whatever it is, opposed to something that's actually aligned with what you're doing, teaching, your standards, right? And that's problematic, especially when we become more culturally diverse, and regardless of what's going on now, it's not going away. We are a diverse nation. We always have been since the conceptualization of America. So if we take culture and we're segregating into a certain space without integrating it through everything else we do, it impacts our students' understanding of themselves within these different subject areas, which impacts relevancy and engagement. So when I first started teaching on Standing Rock Reservation, I worked with this elder who had a lot of insight and knowledge, and the thought process that elder had in regards to teaching and learning was very different than what I learned in education to become a teacher. There's a lot of emphasis on understanding a child from an individual level and their gifts that they were given from the Creator, and that going into what they then became, opposed to trying to change them in some way, saying that these other things that you're not very good at are what has value and you're going to become good at it, right? English, math. If you're not good at that, well, then we have problems. And that's typically what we see within public education. And so few of our kids, that's their gift. So then what they are good at, what I was good at as a young person and an adult today, was art, was drawing, was rendering something three-dimensional on a two-dimensional surface, which I think now as an adult, I have the confidence to say that. I think that's very intelligent to be able to do that, especially at a young age when I could do it, in first grade, and my peers still to this day can only draw stick figures of people, and they are people, right? They're seeing people all the time. They still can't do it in any degree of accuracy. If that had value within our culture, America, that student back in the day would have been on a spatial IEP, and would have had interventions and a goal and a target, but we don't value that. So it's okay to literally be a human being and not be able to draw one like you've never seen one before, So when we look at these different things within education, they influence us, and then these other things that we might not have ever thought of, when you think about it, it kind of makes you laugh, So when we're looking at indigenized pedagogy models and doing it right opposed to doing it wrong, we once had this model of these were all separate things, and now we understand that they're integrated with one another. And if we do integrate it, we're going to have a much deeper understanding of the content that we're teaching. Our students will bring it from the surface into a lot of depth and knowledge, right? So what do we do in terms of trying to teach that way now and still make sense of it? We create another box and we call it STEM education, or we create another box because now we understand that, art's a component, we're gonna call it STEAM, We're constantly trying to put things back into the boxes in which we created so we can process and make sense of it. So then we create lessons that have to fit into these new acronyms that might be very inorganic compared to what they would be naturally. And then we're telling teachers that are certified in one of those areas to do three other things or whatever that they're not certified in. Oh, and on top of that, do it all at the same time, right? And we're deciding as an education system that that's good and it's normal, and it's not, So when you're looking at different ways of teaching, we also see Howard Gardner's multiple intelligence theories, and now we're designing curriculum and projects that model all 7 or 8 or whatever that continues to change too, and then making every single kid do every single intelligence. And we're saying hey, we're hitting all these bases. God forbid every single student doesn't do the exact same thing. I mean, that is another huge issue that we have within education. So then when we do try to change it, we take something that we're good at, the one subject that we're qualified for, and now you're teaching multiple different subjects that you're not, which is probably making you a worse teacher than if you just taught the thing that you're qualified in. Or creating these different intelligences, making every single student engage with it, so they're still getting 10% of their gift, if you want to call it that, in terms of what they really resonate within that content area. But imagine dividing it in a different way, where instead of having rotating stations, you just had a station divided up based off of the subjects, and then you take something that reflects anything, like hypothetical, we can keep going with the pottery thing, and have that be your subject for the day, but create tracks in a way that you have each of your students being able to engage with that content area within the reality of which they feel most comfortable with, right? And that brings value and equal value with every child's gifts and their intelligence, if you want to call it that, where they can engage with this, learn it. You can create a standard, track, resources, become a facilitator, opposed to the person who knows everything and, you know, they can only get it from you. I mean, if they can, like, if they want to be really intelligent and they can navigate content through what they are truly engaged with, they don't need you anymore, right? Like, we just need to be the systems in which create the guardrails to make sure that they're learning and they have the quality, material, and support to navigate when they get caught up on things, right? And then at the end, imagine designing some kind of model of 21st century components of what our children need to be successful. Like, you know, I know we're really focused on bringing back manufacturing jobs, but I don't want to work in a factory. And if my students don't, but they want to create something, I want them to be able to have those skills so they can take on those higher paying jobs, right? Like, those are the ones that I want to design my classroom around, so my students learn that content so that they're comfortable with it, so that they can communicate, that they can navigate material, do presentations, etc., and so forth. Tests are something that rarely happens as an adult. You know, when I got my master's in special education, I had to take the praxis in special education, and that was the last time I had to take a test, thank God, right? But presentations, other things have been ongoing on a regular basis. And if we design what we're doing around that and then learning from one another, we're creating a community of collaboration and strength. And through that peer teaching model, your students are going to learn more about that subject area and the depth within the amount of time that you actually have to teach it. So let's recap on all this. Indigenizing pedagogy, reframing what we're doing. If we lose our need for control as educators of time and speed, and you have to start here and here, and we all have to learn the exact same things, opposed to aligning different tracks with standards that the students will get if they go on that track, and then sharing collectively develops a deeper understanding of the content that we're covering. And that's what's needed today when we have AI and all these other different components. That's really upping our level of what you need to know as a person in order to be successful. So if you like this video, there's a link here with an article that supports this with additional content, and keep viewing.